It started off bad, but then it is now healthy. So I'm going to click.
Recording in
I'm
progress.
going to click that. And I'm just going to pay attention. Give me like a minute. And $30. And as long as it stays healthy, then we'll continue. It looks healthy right now. We're going to get started again. And if the stream becomes unhealthy, then we will cut the stream and we will still stay on Zoom and keep recording this audio-wise.
Sounds good.
Well, actually, we'll continue it video-wise also on Zoom, and then I will edit essentially a live stream and post a video of the live stream. So it'll still be like roughly the same thing, just not live. Sounds good. All right, cool. As long as everyone's good, I'm going to keep an eye on that. All right, so we are back. This is the point in which we're back. We'll edit it all together. Lex, you were stating why you gave it a 4.5 out of 10.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I don't know how much of it was picked up, but it just stayed on par with the rest of the DCEU for me. There was a lot of cool comic book moments, but as a movie on a whole, it just didn't stick the landing, and a lot of the bad that we're going to talk about for me just outweighs that good, and that's why it dips below the 5. I was going to go with a 4, but I mentioned there was a tweet from a friend of mine that I saw earlier today. His name's Evan at Evan Reads Comics on Twitter. He had just seen the movie today, and he was shocked at how he enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
And underneath that tweet of him saying that he liked it, he had put all the criticism about the movie is valid. The CGI is wonky, the cameos are disrespectful, Dark Flash is undercooked, Kara is underutilized. This is a movie that shouldn't exist, let alone work in any capacity, and it deserved to bomb at the box office, but I had a good time. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. I mean, we went to see the movie together, so it was fun, and there were funny moments in it, and we'll talk about the good in a second. But getting to kind of hash it out with you afterwards added to the effect of like, oh, that was fun. I had fun watching that. I don't know if I would watch it again. I mean, I would probably, but I ended up having a good time seeing it. So that's kind of where it got that half a bump above my harder score.
Yeah.
But that's just where I'm at.
So, Michael, you said 5 and Lex put 4.5. And we talked about this before the show. Not that we changed our scores, but, we talked about it. I'm giving it a 4. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. And I think part of that is not to say that there was nothing good about this movie, because if that was the case, I'd give it a 1, right? There were some good things. And, I mean, we'll go over our good things. But as a whole, I thought it was utter nonsense. And that's like me being harsh. And I think you can have utter nonsense that is fun and has redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was utter nonsense. Like, I think that if anyone's going to watch it, they should watch it on streaming when it eventually comes to Max. But yeah, and yeah, like I am a comic book fan, and I love the Flash as a comic book character and as a cartoon character. But I'm trying not to let that cloud my thing. I'm trying to look at it as a whole, but I also don't think the movie treated itself as a solo movie, right? Like I can't judge it but as a movie if they don't treat themselves as a singular unified movie.
Yeah.
It's
I agree with them.
They lent on they were leaning on a lot. And so I'm gonna give it a 4. And will I watch it again? Yeah, I'll watch it on streaming to see if I can catch anything that I didn't catch. But I also don't think it's a super smart movie either. So I don't think there are layers to be pulled back. But there are good qualities, good things about this, you know. T3 Media Studios, what's up out there? T3 says, hey guys, hey Michael, hey Dimithri, how are you? I gave it a B. This is T3 on YouTube. It was fun. I hated the CGI. There's a correction there. And the ending, but it made me smile. It was a mess that made me smile. Lol. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said before, in like the beginning of this episode, is that like, I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. Am I a little perplexed by some people's high grades? I am perplexed. Do I think that do I think they're being paid by Warner Brothers? No. I don't think that people who say, like Chris over at T3, like, is he getting paid by Warner Brothers to give it a B? No. He just enjoyed it and gave it a B. But I do want to read out the percentages. I just did a quick Instagram poll on the Keeg, and 17, let's deal with percentages. 17% gave it an A, 25% gave it a B, 17% gave it a C, and 42% gave it a D/F. I was only given 4 options on this poll, so I did D and F is the same. So 17, 25, 17, 42. So, you know, roughly half of the people, it's below the line. And the other half, it seems to be very high above the line, which I think is very interesting.
And yeah, don't get wrong, Dimithri. Like I'm very obviously very much on the comic side, so that's kind of where my perspective comes from. But the big group that I went with to go see it doesn't read comics at all, so they kind of had a very similar perspective. Like that's why it's also very confusing to me, where a lot of these big creators and critics are giving it very high ratings. And when I see it obviously Rotten Tomatoes too, even the critics on there was giving high ratings, which usually they don't. And so that was very confusing to me. Like it was a pretty average comic book movie with a lot of, if you take it, all the stuff going on, the drama outside the movie itself, like with that included, like it just seemed like it was very confusing why it was so high rating wise. So
for sure.
I mean, yeah. I wanna get to positive stuff. But when
I do too.
I think there's a lot of things. There's expectations that are involved with this movie. And then there's also like the fact that like DC does hits and misses when it comes to their movies. And a lot of people just they just want a good movie. So like they might either rate it really low because DC's string of movies, or high because they liked it better than DC's string of movies. Like it's hard to stay unbiased because none of us are unbiased. But like, you know, when people compare it to Marvel movies, I don't think this does not rank higher than Quantumania. It doesn't even rank higher than Thor: Love and Thunder to me.
I'm a huge
Flash
about the same.
I'm a huge Flash fan. But no,
I've just been seeing a lot of the like the taglines in a lot of these reviews is that they're like, it's the greatest superhero movie ever. Like, okay, I don't agree with that. And like maybe that was my fault for looking into those too much, because I think walking out of it, I try to like have like some self reflection. Maybe I did get super excited over it because I kept seeing people say this is the best superhero movie ever. And so I was like, okay, fantastic. I've been wanting a big I was talking to Lex here a second ago. Big DC fan. I really am. Like, I love Marvel, like, no joke, but I want a good DC movie. I want it so bad, Dimithri. And so maybe I was like hyping this movie a little too much for myself. Maybe that's where that low expectation comes from.
Yeah. Something that you touched on is that like, who is saying it's good and who is saying it's bad. I think it's utterly cynical of people to be like, people who look at Marvel movies and they're like, oh, Disney must be paying these people to say good things. And must be paying people to say bad things about DC movies. It doesn't work that way,
Yeah, no.
Like none of like, yeah. Even when we get free stuff, in me and my minimal level on the totem pole, when I do get to see screenings for movies, they say whatever you say about the movie has to be you and you alone. Like if you want to say something bad, you can say something bad. Like you have to be honest. We are not paying you for this. We're not giving you a free screening so that you just say good things,
Yeah.
All they say is say that, IMAX is better, like is the way to see it on a thing. And like, that's great, because IMAX is the way to see it on screen. Like, of course, that's obvious. But the point being is that like, yeah, this isn't me taking Disney money to talk bad about The Flash. But I do think there are behind the scenes stuff that forces certain executives to hold their tongue. And we can get into it later. I think James Gunn saying good things about this movie is James Gunn being the executive now and not understanding that
it's his job. He's at work.
Job. He has to say that these movies are good. Even if he didn't have a hand in any of these. Some people are already blaming James Gunn. They're saying, "Oh, this is what happens when James Gunn takes over." He had nothing to do with The Flash.
It's so crazy.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. Yeah, I was just talking to a guy today that went on a rant about how James Gunn and Safran are just ruining the DC universe now. And I'm like, this movie was done already, man. In a version of it was done already.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
I agree with what you said, like for it to not stand up on its own. So I had posted my string of thoughts on the movie, and it's funny because a lot of the people that love the movie, their reactions, the responses were, I don't know, man, I really liked it. This movie gave us the best Batman scenes that we've gotten in live action. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, man. But this is a Flash movie. Like, what did you like about Flash? Like, yeah, it's cool. We saw 30 Supermen, but this is a Flash movie. What specifically about the Flash did you like? And I haven't got a single answer about it yet. So I just think it's weird that this movie was propped up by so many different pieces. And I know we're going to get into the positives, but I just thought that, just with the reactions online, it just seems strange to me. I don't understand it. And I'm really not trying. Sometimes I do get online and I like to poke the bear, but I'm being genuine with my review of this movie, not trying to be mean, not trying to troll. I'm really trying to get into that perspective of someone that loves this movie.
I don't understand
because I don't see it. I would love to see it from that view. I really would.
I think something that people have pointed out about, content creators and whatnot, there are content creators that are looking for cohesive movies and want to be critical about it, whether they're good or they're bad. If they're a cohesive movie, that's how they want to treat it. And then there's other people who look at these type of things and they want moments. They want a slideshow.
Yeah.
They want a clip. Like, they want to be able to edit just those cool moments together, and like that's their A movie, right? Like they want
that was this movie then.
Like,
yeah,
could you make a cool montage on YouTube by taking some of these scenes together and putting them you do a cool
1,000%.
But what is the story? How, and not just the story, because the story can be in a
I still don't
medium.
know.
The story and just the use of the medium of film. Like, how are we doing this,
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about the story, I mean, the thing that bugged me, I think the most, if we're talking just for the Flash part of it, is the fact that this was obviously set up for a sequel, because we don't get the, spoiler alert, we don't get the answer to who killed his mom, right? He did this whole thing.
Yeah, I was so annoyed by that. Annoyed.
So it's funny you bring that up, because yes, it was supposed to, we never get the answer who did that. Like, that's the thing, it doesn't stand alone as its own cohesive movie.
It doesn't.
But then also, you say it as they were setting up for a sequel. They were in part of the movie, because this movie is a collage of a lot of things. Like, it is not,
it's like multiple versions that they made
and reshoots and whatnot. And that final scene with you know, the cameo that gets out of the car, which we'll go over, but like that to me, I was telling Lex, that to me was them saying this isn't going to have a sequel. This is
absolutely.
This is the end of Michael Jackson's Thriller, where he goes, and then his eyes light up, and it's like, that's the twist. It's a Twilight Zone episode.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
That is it. There's no sequel. There's no sequel to Thriller. A lot of those Twilight Zone episodes don't get sequels. That end scene was them being like, what's the next one gonna be? Him trying to not have that? I don't think so. It was just.
But see, that's so crazy to me, because I mean, like, how then? Where do you go from here?
You don't
with that movie.
You don't
like.
You don't go anywhere.
With the character, like, is that you just ignore that now? Like, okay, that's done now. Yeah. But then what about what? Then why could we have that end credit scene just to set up? Oh, Aquaman is in this universe. Here we go. Like, that's what I took from that thing.
I mean, we'll talk about
that. Was the worst end credit scene I've ever seen in my life.
No joke. No joke.
That was the worst, because maybe I was talking about with Lex. No. I was talking about with my roommate, who Justice. Jay likes comics. I was talking to him, trying not to spoil anything before he sees the movie. James Gunn does a lot of like non sequitur post credit sequences where it's like, oh, it's kind of just for fun. It'll be like, oh, here's Drax doing the laundry.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. And like, it doesn't matter. It's not, there's not Easter eggs or anything. It's just Drax. Here's Drax ordering from Starbucks. And like, okay, cool. At least that's funny and good. That final.
Yeah, that would be funny if it didn't have Aquaman in it. Like, what's the point of that?
I just took it as James Gunn wanted to make sure that everyone realized that Aquaman is still in this universe.
And
because he has Aquaman 2.
I can't wait to talk about. I can't wait to.
All right.
I can't wait to talk about this because it was funny. Yeah, it was funny.
We are struggling to. We got to get onto this. Let's say some good stuff. Real quick though. Brent on YouTube in our chat says, is it going to do well enough at the box office? First, that's not even the complete sentence, but no, it's not doing well. That the executives feel justified in pushing this forward and not with Batgirl. That's also a thing. I don't want to rant about this. I can rant about this at the end of the episode. I am pissed. I'm an added level of super pissed that they cut Batgirl because they said it was unwatchable, or whatever they said about Batgirl.
That's so hard for me to believe. That's so hard for me to believe.
I can't believe it.
Brendan Fraser, and with seeing Keaton in this, he's in Batgirl too.
Keaton would have been with Batgirl.
That, oh my god, that movie would have been great. Like, it's hard for me to believe that it's unwatchable, right? I'm sure it would have like an indie theme. Yeah, I would have like
they would have made more money.
Smaller budget. I get that, but like unwatchable, no.
Absolutely, would have made more money.
They would have made more money off of Batgirl than this. This is going to lose them money in the box office.
Box office wise, yeah. I just saw something this morning about this. Is this true? I didn't look it up whether it's true. Like, did it make less opening day than Black Adam? Is that true? I didn't look it up, but I saw someone talk about that.
So The Flash is estimated to have 64 million through the holiday Monday. So Monday included. It's grossed 55.1 million, and it's they're hoping to get even more people on Monday, but
sure. Yeah, I was just talking about the opening night. He said nothing about the weekend. They're just like opening night sales. It's Black Adam did better. I didn't look it up whether that's true or not, but it would.
Yeah. 24.5 million to 26.6 million for opening day. Thursday and Friday grosses. So Black Adam opened higher.
Adam opened higher. Got it.
So things are really wild right now. By the way, just a side note, go see Elemental.
Go see Elemental.
I saw Elemental this weekend, and I think if you have to choose between one movie or the other, I would say go see Elemental. Elemental.
That's gotta hurt as a comic fan to say. Oh my god.
Elemental is Pixar's lowest opening weekend, and I'm sad because I thought it was good.
I didn't know it came out.
It is good.
It was so weird.
Good. Yeah,
I didn't know it came out. I was talking to my wife about that today. Yeah. Because we wanted to see it, and I was like, I don't know when it comes out, and then we looked it up, and it had been out all weekend. Yeah. So
there might be a thing
tomorrow
that Disney movies are making less in the box office now because everybody has Disney Plus, and people are just going to watch it on Disney Plus for a whole family. It's a whole family's worth of movie tickets. I think they'd rather just watch it on Disney Plus. I think Disney Plus might be hurting Disney's box office revenue.
Probably.
As opposed to
I can see that, especially if they're not pouring the money into the marketing.
They're not.
That's it. Yeah, it's true.
They're not. So
yeah.
Okay. So Batgirl, yes. Okay. Let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about the good stuff in this movie.
Good stuff.
There were some really cool moments, and something that if I may quote Speed Force Life on TikTok, he was in my comments. He said he liked the movie because he got to see a lot of powers that the Flash has not shown before. Like we got to see Flash powers on the big screen, which was like amazing, right?
And he explained them, and
I
liked that about it. The Flash explained his powers and different powers. Like you see the lightning tornado that he does that in the comics too, which I loved. The phasing and explaining how the molecules speed up faster than that was cool. I liked that. Especially if they explained it, because I think they don't explain that enough. That Barry is very smart and a detective himself. He's a forensic
scientist. He's a forensic scientist.
Investigator, right?
Yeah.
So like he is also a detective. Like he should be looking for these finding these clues as well. And I think they were finally starting to do that, at least, and I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked the moment where he phases and you see the atoms phase through. I surprisingly liked it. I thought it would have been like if it was done differently, I think it would have been cheesy. I thought it worked. It was just the right amount of time, I thought. I don't know, Lex, you guys want to say about that?
Yep. No, I liked it. And I liked all of that stuff. Him using his powers, even the way he ran and the way they showed him in the Speed Force, opposed to like the CW sort of hummingbird running style. And I'm not saying I prefer one to the other. I think it's cool to see both versions of that. I just liked the way that they did it in this movie, in a movie where I'm sure we'll talk about the CGI and all of that stuff really stood out as a positive.
Right.
So that was cool.
I think that they created. I think that they were trying to separate themselves from the Flash TV show that went 9 seasons. Like they just finished the 9th season, and I have my positives and negatives about the Flash CW show, but in the end of the day, what gets the character in front of the most people and the most kids? You know, what gets people to know the names of Barry Allen, Iris West, right? Like like the names of their villains. The CW show moved a lot of weight. You know?
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
For sure.
But
and Grant Gustin played a very good Barry, in my opinion. I liked Gustin as he was a very solid Barry.
Yeah. I mean,
not world changing, not genre changing, but like
he did his job.
He's pretty solid.
Did his job.
Yeah, he's pretty solid Barry.
You know, I don't think he will forever be the iconic Barry for all time, but
it's just I'm not mixing him up with like Grant Gustin's interpretation of Barry is compared to Ezra Miller's interpretation of Barry. I'm not mixing him up with Wally. Like I see more of Wally in Ezra's interpretation rather than Grant Gustin. I see more of Barry, and I think that's the frustrating part of me for me at least.
Wally or Impulse, because
Impulse, exactly.
The past version of him was
young Barry. Young Barry was
Impulse,
he was Bart. It was Bart Allen for sure.
Which I'm fine with. I'm fine with, because then you get to show through the writing, through the film, that like, oh, this character has grown through the acquisition of his powers.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
There are funny moments. There are.
I agree.
I think it's in the first half. The funny moments I think are in the first half, right? Because then it gets Snyderverse. It gets Snyderversey, right?
Yeah, and there was like and the third, like the end of the movie, the back half of it, it was just weird. Like there was a scene where there was supposed to be a pin drop moment where they play the Barbie World song, right? But they cut that song completely from the movie.
Did they?
But they still say that
Come
moment.
On, Barbie, let's go party.
And then they say, let's go party, and then they don't play the song. So it's just like,
why to play the song?
I saw an interview. I was reading an interview about it today.
Why did they cut the song? Because of the Barbie movie?
I don't know. I just thought it was I thought it was like, why would they say that? It was so strange.
Maybe no one's allowed to use that song. Was it Barbie movie out here doesn't have that song in there either?
Well, no, now they do. Now they do. Because,
do they now?
Yeah, side note about this, there was a song in the 90s called I'm a Barbie Girl, or whatever, by the band Aqua. Problem is Aqua got sued by Mattel or whoever owns Barbie. But then they said it's a parody. It's a parody of Barbie, so parody laws can be intact. Anyway, Mattel and Aqua had a falling out because of that. And so people were saying that, like, because of that lawsuit, that this new Barbie movie would not use the Aqua song. Because people really want to hear the Aqua song in the Barbie movie. And then people were like, well, that's not going to happen. Well, turns out Nicki Minaj came out with a new one that samples the Aqua song, I believe. And through that song is on the movie.
Smart.
That's as far as I know. That is
got it.
That is us talking about Barbie on the Flash movie podcast. But
yeah, well, there was just a lot of weird moments like that. In the beginning, I thought there was a lot of solid comedy. We talked about it after the movie, but the introduction of Michael Keaton's Batman as this like crazy hermit, retired superhero might be my favorite scene in that whole movie. And not just because Michael Keaton. I'm not going to be one of those people that say I love Michael Keaton so much. That's why. But you get to see Barry living without his powers, still like reacting like he has his powers, but getting hit in the head with a bottle and just getting the crap beat out of him. And then you have young Barry that has only had his powers for a few hours and just instinctually using them. Yeah. It was just a cool moment to see all of that stuff happening together. And that slowly stopped happening throughout the rest of the movie. Like the cohesiveness just slowly started to fade away as we went on. And like I said, the humor was just good.
He doesn't have his powers and he's doing,
oh my God. I was like, that's stupid, but it was funny.
Yeah. Get it. Right now the health of the stream. Maybe it's back. Anyway, running through the wall, that was funny. It's like, okay, cool. Yes, what happens when a man who has, superhuman powers gets it taken, gets it taken away?
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, or when young Barry realizes he has powers and does the Speedy Gonzalez thing, I thought that was great because we didn't really we never saw Barry Allen get his powers in the DCEU. He just kind of already had them.
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I did that too. I did the same stupid thing. And it spiraled into chaos. And I thought it was great because, that's what would happen with someone that instantly got super speed, that had no idea, like, okay, I need to pause and be strategic about this. You just bounce off the walls. It was hilarious.
I definitely think this movie was a scrapbook of different ideas. It was, like, I don't think anyone can argue that it was cohesive. I think even if you give it an A, it's like, okay, this was not a cohesive movie. But at the same time, like the scene where young Barry runs out and his clothes burn off and like bad things happen, I thought was funny. Like the blackouts, the whatever, great. These are Flash concepts, right? This is a specific Flash moment, not necessarily from the comics or whatever, but this is about him as the Flash. He gets his powers, doesn't know how to control it, funny things happen. That's great.
Yeah, and it secretly, like I said, gives us that, not Barry origin story, but we never got a Barry Allen origin story, so we kind of get an offhanded glimpse at him getting his powers essentially for the first time, and in like a backhanded way. Like him phasing through the ground, genius. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, they're not reinventing the wheel with some of these things.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but it's like a checklist of Flash. Yes, a checklist of Flash antics.
Right. I mean, it'd be similar to Spider-Man learning how to swing for the first time, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun and crazy and learning to use a Spidey sense, and like, the Flash kind of has that similar kind of thing about him. This movie does, in order to, I think, separate itself from other, Flash, projects, it comes up with a new amount of powers and weaknesses. right? Like it creates
Sure.
new rules for his powers. The first thing we see is that he needs the calories to run.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, I thought that was cool.
It's not just a like he's hungry. It's that
It's literal fuel.
He needs to fuel
literal
himself.
fuel. It's like filling up your car tank.
Right.
You don't have an empty tank, you're not going anywhere.
Right. And he keeps track of it with his watch. That makes sense. You know?
I did like the suit. I did like the new suit. I like that it came out of the ring. I did enjoy the new suit. I thought it grew on me. I liked it better than the Snyder, the Justice League version. Where it's like instead of the armor.
Yeah, the armor. But also, I mean, we'll bring it to the CGI in a little bit, that it doesn't always work with the CGI. Like, it looks like a CGI body. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, totally.
But, like, it is the closest thing we've gotten to a physical Speed Force costume.
Yeah.
You know? Like, in the comics, Wally uses literal Speed Force energy to make a costume around himself.
Yeah.
You know? And sure, this is the deflatable one, but it looked the closest to it. Funny moment is the uniform coming out of the ring, and he doesn't change into it, and it just kind of flops.
Yeah.
Funny moment. Again, I think that the movie is best when it's just the Flash. I think when it's the Flash being the Flash story. The moment at the end, I cried when he says goodbye to his mother. I cried.
Yeah,
it was good.
That was a quality moment. Good. That might have been my favorite moment of the movie. It was.
No, I think I mentioned that. It was just the emotional moments were very key, and I think that was very special and very needed as well. I think
they were really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the Justice League being at the beginning was fine because it showed, Barry in that world as a superhero, like doing his thing. But as it progressed to him changing the timeline, being stuck in the past with his younger self, I feel like adding in the Man of Steel subplot was just like, what?
Right.
Why is Zod here? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Right.
It was just weird to me that they added an entire subplot of the Man of Steel movie in this Flash movie.
Right.
It's weird, man.
Also, like, in the multiverse that is in our lived multiverse, there is a version of this movie that makes sense. You know? It might have been a movie that just hinged on the Reverse Flash being the villain. You know?
Yeah, I think that would make a lot more sense if they just would have stuck with, because it seemed like that's where they were probably going with this instead of Dark Flash. Like, I'm assuming we can just talk about the whole movie, but like it would have made more sense. But I mean, that was an element of the Flashpoint comic, right? Which they had some reference on. You know how mainstream Barry got his powers back was very Flashpoint. I mean, I like the addedness of Supergirl. Like Michael Keaton and Supergirl, like Batman and Superman of that world, were things that like really I loved about that movie. I think Supergirl was extremely underused. I liked her interpretation of her, and I liked her everything that she brought to it. Michael Keaton's Batman was phenomenal, but I walked out of that movie very confused because I was very upset at the movie, but then also I was very happy. I was wondering why. I was like, oh, Michael Keaton. I love Michael Keaton's Batman and Supergirl, and I liked that element of it. But I was like, is that more nostalgia factor than actual like good movie? Like, so that was a big thing that I was playing with for the past few days as well. But yeah, I thought it was really good.
I think for people who wanted Michael Keaton in the suit again, I can't blame you. But I will point people to the Batman 89 comic, which takes place after Batman Returns. Batman 89 comic, sure, it isn't Michael Keaton as an actor, but it is his character of Bruce Wayne and kind of what a third movie story could have been. I would recommend people, if they want to live in that universe, and I'm still not convinced that this multiversal string, the spaghetti, was actually the sequel to Batman 89 and Batman Returns. I don't think so. Like, I don't believe that.
Well, at the end of the movie, we learn that it's actually the sequel to Batman and Robin
through a different multiversal skew, right? Through a different multiversal skew.
Ah.
But I don't think it's a sequel to that universe. I don't think it takes place in that same continuity. It just brought the actor in to play Batman, because I'm sure there are multiple timelines in which Michael Keaton plays a different version of Batman. And that's okay.
Because it's so confusing, because at the end credit scene, it's implying that Aquaman, the whole universe is fine, except for Bruce is different, right? At least of what we've seen so far.
Right.
And so he's just now George Clooney. Like, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, me and Dimithri talked about that, and I was saying that, well, essentially in my head canon, what this means is that the entire DCEU just gets shoved into the Schumacher Clooney universe now, and that's it. That's where they're putting them there. They're burying it, and it's Aquaman exists with Chris O'Donnell and George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they just exist there now, and that's it.
But I mean,
the end.
Can you? Because I thought, from what I was reading, I thought that was it Aquaman 2 is still in the new.
It's coming.
Well,
world we have, is he not?
Arguments one way or another.
Then why have that end scene? Then why did throw that in?
The movie is still coming out, and that's the thing. Even though James Gunn has nothing,
you got to remind people that the movie's coming out.
Or Aquaman, the movie still has to come out, and he can't talk bad about it. He can't. That's his job.
Yeah.
So all these people who are involved in the project can't talk bad, because the movie still needs to make money in the box office. You can't.
And that end credit scene reminded people that Aquaman is still coming out.
Jason Momoa is still Aquaman, though.
Yeah, for now.
That ends.
So what you're telling me is that Aquaman 2 has nothing to do with what James Gunn is doing. He's not going to have that in.
I don't think so.
Nobody knows whether Jason Momoa will continue being Aquaman in the new Gunniverse.
I'm going to say that he's probably going to be Lobo in the DCU,
just to show that things are different.
Yeah, that's what I believe from some of the things that I've heard.
Yeah.
And again, Aquaman 2 is set in the Schumacher universe, so let's just watch it and bury it.
I don't think that George Clooney Batman is the same Batman as in Batman and Robin. I just think
that's just me being hopeful.
Yeah,
because I love that movie.
I would love to see what that Clooney looks like in the suit now, because he has a beard, and I don't think that Batman would have a beard. I would love a full mask Batman.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, that's just. I mean, the comic book fan in me, like.
Well, Batman White Knight had Sean Gordon Murphy's Batman had a beard with his cowl.
He did. They
can rock that one.
Yeah. Old Batman. That's exactly what I thought when I was walking out of that movie too.
But none of these multiversal shifts make a younger Batman. Like
Batman and Robin and Flash.
That's the next movie. But I mean, we have the director of Flash doing the new Brave and the Bold movie, right? So is that going to be a younger Batman? Because I don't think you can. Can you have an old Batman with a young Superman? Because isn't that the next Superman's going to be younger, right?
Here are my theories. With the upcoming Gunniverse.
That
right?
is the thing with short and grown movies. Speaking of the White Knight, that's how it is in the White Knight.
Yeah,
comic-wise, it's an old Batman, but you have a very young Superman.
You got a fresh off the farm Superman.
I don't think it's gonna be the case. I personally believe that everything in this phase 1 of Gods and Monsters, I believe is what they're calling it, right? Of this new DC universe, will take place not chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That is my opinion. My opinion is that you can have an actor who plays Superman play young Superman versus 20 years from now Superman, and have it be the same actor because it's Superman. I think Superman Legacy will take place in the past. Batman Brave and the Bold will take place in the now. And if James Gunn is smart, and I think he is, he will have a plot thread that's kind of like Superman Batman World's Finest, the comic, where there will be a plot from the past that will extend into the present day. I think there will be.
That seems very that's very dangerous, though, in my opinion. To do something like that can be very confusing. You have a singular to your mainstream audience. Doing something like that might be very confusing.
I think that James Gunn could do it. For example, when I mean plot points that extend from the past to the future, it could mean that in Batman Brave and the Bold, that they mention, hey, ever since that incident that happened with Superman, like the government has started up this program, and it's like, okay, what's the incident? And then we gotta watch a sequel to Superman Legacy to figure that out. Like, okay, whatever. It's just like small things here and there.
So just Superman Legacy, you'd say, might take place in the past, because Blue Beetle's gonna probably be in the present too. And James Gunn was just saying that Blue Beetle is like here we go.
That's the first. Yeah. That's the first movie in the new universe.
Right. Yeah. But I think Creature Commandos, they're doing an animated show or an animated movie or show, but then they're gonna do a live action version with those characters. That's why they cast actors that can play the live action versions. So
the animated one will be like in the past, and that's what I present will be the live action one. Sure, I can see that happening. Sure.
I think that Marvel has taken, I think James Gunn has seen things from all sides, and I think that he can pull off a phase that isn't always in phase with itself, but it's in continuity, because you just need one person to have that singular vision. He's going to be plotting things for the next 4 years. I think his contract's 3 or 4 years.
And we haven't even seen all the movies in phase 1 yet that he announced. He said that too.
No, only half of them.
Yeah, so there's gonna be more in there. I'm hoping still for Constantine 2. Do you think that's gonna be in
there? If he can make it fit within his vision.
Just League Dark.
But
I mean, that sounds like it fits with the Gods and Monsters.
Yeah. I think though that this Flash movie closes this dead timeline. It is
if that's timeline. True, then Aquaman 2 is going to be terrible at the box office. Then
well,
with this movie as well, people knew that like they're shaking things up at DC, so people are like, do I really care about the Flash?
Yeah.
That was my one sentence like pull quote about the movie was, the Flash was the perfect nail in the coffin of the DCEU. Like it stayed the course with the rest of the movies. It was fun, and it ended it in a weird way. Just
a messy timeline,
Yeah, just charge it to Bruce Wayne's bat card and leave him in the
move organic things super fast. He can move bullets out of the way, but he can't move up.
It makes sense.
I liked it. It makes things harder.
It makes sense, and it was funny to see.
Yeah.
It was funny because when he moved him, he was like, "What did you just do?" And it was a pause because for me, I was like, "Oh yeah, he just mentioned that, or he mentioned earlier that you can't move organic materials," and then instantly just started violently vomiting.
Right.
Well, I thought it was great, man.
Because when Lex and I were watching it, I turned to Lex and I was like, "Why couldn't he run younger Barry to the place?"
Yeah. How did he save all those babies then?
He didn't.
I guess he didn't. Oh, he was pushing around. He was creating the safe environment. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That makes sense.
Let's talk about that scene because this is going to move us into the big thing. The baby falling scene was like this whole movie was Looney Tunes. It was Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I mean that both as a noun and as an adjective. It was Looney Tunes. Mm-hmm. How'd you guys like the baby scene?
It was so much, man.
I'll say it was imaginative. I would have liked it if the CGI was better. I think.
It was all cartoony. And some people have mixed feelings about it because Ezra Miller in their personal life is such a menace to just society and younger people and things like that. And so I get that. And me watching the movie and reviewing it has I'm not condoning his or their lifestyle at all, but I thought it was fine. It was imaginative. It was a lot. Very cartoony. It was very cartoony.
It's just hard to really give it its just praise when this movie had to go through a ridiculous amount of edits. They pushed it back ridiculous amount of time. They had a lot of time to fix all the CGI, and it wasn't. Because I hear like this looked exactly the same how it was previewed months ago, right? Like
I don't think they were going to put more funding into it. That's the thing. I think at a certain point
it's clear. It's very clear that they could not.
You're completely right, Dimithri. Yes, they could not put any more money.
I wanna bring
It
up
would just be one less thing to complain about, and probably would have done it. I mean, with more praise at it, they might have got more people to go see it. I don't know, like,
right. And it was such a big thing. I agree. It was such a huge chunk of the movie was CGI, and that's why I think it's weird to not want to put a little bit more into it.
2023, when original Jurassic Park in the 90s still had better CGI than this one. Like,
well, I was talking to my buddy about it yesterday, and there were scenes where both Barrys were next to each other, and younger Barry's face would like do a weird thing, and I'm like, it's 2023, like Michael said, and there's no way that the Parent Trap in the 90s convinced me that there were legitimately Lindsay Lohan and her twin sister.
Oh my god.
And then the original Parent Trap also did the same thing. And we can't do it in this multi-million dollar movie. There's no excuse in that instance.
I think it's because they ran out of money and they're like, let's fix it in post. And for anyone who is a filmmaker who knows let's fix it in post, that tends to be an executive decision and not a filmmaker's decision. Because a filmmaker's decision is let's plan for it in pre-production, let's do it in production, and let's use post for post. But
it's more of like tweaking in post rather than fixing in post.
Yeah, you don't fix problems in post. The goal is not to have problems. And it's an executive decision. Hey, we're pulling the plug. Take what you have and fix it in post. And
I hate to keep bringing up Batgirl, but it's like you have that movie that was essentially completely done.
Yeah.
And then you have this movie that even after I saw it in theaters did not look completely done. And you scrap that one. I just don't understand, man.
I don't either, man. I really don't.
It doesn't make any sense other than I personally think there are a lot of things behind the scenes that they're not telling us, that they are brushing over. But that's what people out there don't realize is that like I don't know if anyone has worked for a company before, but like media companies, newspapers, dare I say churches, they don't say when people get fired why exactly they're fired.
Sure. Yeah. And you also have investors and things like that you have to answer to that essentially have nothing to do with the film industry, but those people will demand their money, especially after 10 years. And it looks like this movie isn't going to come out. They're like, no, this movie is coming out. We're going to make something back. There's just so many different levels of behind the scenes, like you said, that just casual movie fans don't even take into consideration.
Yeah.
With something of this magnitude.
I'm going to give a quick rundown of just the history of this thing. So in general, they've wanted to make a Flash movie since the 80s because they made the Flash TV show, right? The Flash was a property in which they wanted to make it. David S. Goyer, who wrote Batman Begins, was tapped to write, direct, and produce a Flash in 2004. He approached Ryan Reynolds to play Wally and have an older Barry be a supporting role in the movie. Keep in mind that this is before Barry comes back to life in the comics. Like Wally was the Flash and a whole generation's Flash.
He's my Flash.
He's my Flash.
Yeah, he's 100% my Flash.
So Goyer was influenced by Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and whatnot. Then
that sounds cool, man.
George Miller was tapped to do Justice League Immortal, and then cast Adam Brody as the Flash. So they're trying to figure out whether to do the Flash or the Justice League movies, which continues.
I remember that era.
So then in 2013 is where I consider the start of this Flash's movie's conception. 2013. 10 years ago. It's been 10 years. They were trying to do the Justice League movie with Snyder and whatnot. Then James Wan was approached to either do Aquaman or The Flash, and he chose Aquaman, which released in 2018. Keep in mind that the Snyderverse movies are also coming out. Phil Lord and Chris Miller were next. They wrote a story treatment, but then they decided to go direct Solo, a Star Wars story, which then they left that as well. So Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Then Seth Graham-Smith was supposed to take Lord and Miller's treatment. And that did
Sorry,
not
guys, I'll be right
happen.
back.
Yeah. Then Rick Famuyiwa, who is director of Dope, was tapped to direct for June 2016 to appeal to a younger, hipper crowd. He was the one who brought on Kiersey Clemons as Iris West because of Kiersey Clemons in Dope.
Nice.
He also brought on Billy Crudup, I believe, as Henry Allen, who both Kiersey Clemons and Billy Crudup were in the Justice League movie and then brought back for Snyder. Like, the Snyder Cut is really where they came back.
Yeah.
Then Rick Famuyiwa could not come together creatively with the studio. And so then writer Joby Harold was hired to do a page one rewrite. Joby Harold also worked on Transformers Rise of the Beasts. We covered that last week's episode. Then Robert Zemeckis and Matthew Vaughn were contacted.
Jesus.
Both expressed interest in the project, but then had scheduling issues. So we're talking Zemeckis from Back to the Future, which is a bit on the nose, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like Ron Howard doing Solo. Kind of a boring choice, but all right. Sam Raimi, Mark Webb, both of which are Spider-Man directors, again, on the nose, because they knew what they wanted. And then Jordan Peele turned down offers.
Smart.
To direct.
At that point, very smart.
Ben Affleck turned down the offer to direct the movie. Then in 2017, the movie was changed to Flashpoint, the name. They're still doing rewrites. Jeffrey Dean Morgan wanted to come back as Thomas Wayne. Then in 2018, filmmaking duo John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, who you might know from Freaks and Geeks, they're the kids, or at least one of them is the kid. They entered negotiations to write and direct the film after Zemeckis. That Warner Brothers couldn't wait for Zemeckis to be free. Daly and Goldstein were confirmed as directors in March 2018. Then the title reverted to The Flash. Then they left. Then Ezra and Grant Morrison were supposed to rewrite the film to keep
that would have been weird.
Ezra on. Ezra was going to leave if that wasn't the case, but they decided not to go with that version, but still keep Ezra. So
that would have been a weird movie, man.
Daly and Goldstein then leave. Then Andy Muschietti enters negotiations with his sister to produce as well. And that's where we leave it. Andy Muschietti is tapped to direct in 2020.
Dang.
No, confirmed in November 2019. And they started 2020. Anyway, at that point, they schedule The Flash to come out in 2022. July 1st, 2022. Oh, that has been...
Meanwhile, on the parallel side, Warner Bros. Went through a journey on its own of buying and selling and different studios taking over, and they had a whole that had to have an impact on some of these changes. It's just been a mess over there.
Yes, I also think that they were super desperate, and I do not blame Andy Muschietti for this. Somebody pointed out that if The Flash is so horrible, why is he doing Batman Brave and the Bold? And my personal opinion is that Warner Brothers, James Gunn specifically, knows that it's not Andy Muschietti's fault. And that if they did not offer him Batman Brave and the Bold, Andy would have had his career ruined.
Yeah.
His name attached to this product. He is a fairly new director. And that being said, I also don't know why he, as a new director, was offered a blockbuster project. It happens a lot with certain directors when other directors have to really fight hard to work their way into blockbuster territory. Anyway,
sorry about that.
It's all right. I don't think Andy Muschietti is at fault, and I think that James Gunn knows that. And in order to not ruin Andy's career by other people's faults, Gunn has offered him Batman Brave and the Bold.
And that might not even pan out. I mean, that's just like a right now locked in thing. He might be like, no, I'm actually stepping away from it.
He could.
I don't want to mess with this at all. You know what I mean? And then
seems to happen a lot of DC.
Yeah, and so they could just go on with a whole new direction. James Gunn will just write it and direct it himself.
I think Andy's better off doing Batman Brave and the Bold. I think he should. Because
especially if they have a more
small. His filmography is very small.
Especially if you can knock it out of the park.
I was thinking about this the other day when it comes to James Gunn universe, and I'm a little, I don't know. Obviously, I'm very in the minority of thinking with James Gunn, but with James Gunn taking over, I was fine with that, to be honest with you. But with him writing and directing Superman, he's gonna put his own feel on it, right? That's fine. He's writing and directing it, but then everything else kind of has to take that direction as well. I kind of liked more what Kevin Feige was doing and just being very behind the scenes, right? And just kind of like directing where he wants everyone to go from behind the scenes. So but Jermaine, you're shaking your head. You don't think with James Gunn writing and directing, this is going to set the tone for his universe, though?
I agree and I disagree, right? So Feige is not the he's the creative head, but he also is the admin head. On DC Studios side, the admin is run by Peter Safran, and the creative part is run by James Gunn. Now, I know that when people pointed out that James Gunn will do it in his own style and blah, 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 and the problem with that, I agree that when he writes and he directs Superman Legacy, he will do it his way. But I don't believe that his way is going to be the same way that he did the Suicide Squad or Guardians, because even those two movies,
I don't think so either.
But they are different in feel. I think that James Gunn will do his way, not as James Gunn, but as Superman. He will do his way of Superman, but it won't be that he will do what he did for the Suicide Squad, but for Superman. You get what I'm saying? Yeah,
but all those movies, like, sure, they might have different feels, but I disagree with that. They all felt like James Gunn movies to me. Like, when you watch the Superman, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly. And I had no problem with that. If he was just being the writer-director of Superman, totally fine. But he also has input on the rest of the universe, right?
But not on a directorial style. Like, he could force Andy Muschietti to put in Parents Just Don't Understand by Fresh Prince into Batman Brave and the Bold. I just came up with that. That actually sounds kind of funny with Damien.
Yeah, it sounds good, man.
And Parents Just Don't Understand. Anyway, the point being is he could force him to do that, but I don't think he's going to. He's treating the universe as a producer. He's treating the film as producer, writer, director. But I don't think he's going to force every single movie to then have a 80s soundtrack. You get what I'm saying?
Of course he's not going to do that. No, but just, I guess what I'm getting at is, I don't know.
Because Superman is such a prominent figure in this universe, I get both sides of this. And I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited for the new direction because I want a good DC movie, and I want something good DC, so I'm willing to keep trying. I really am. So it's
hopefully
not that I don't want him to do it.
Yeah, hopefully he does it in a way where he is trusting his, he's vetting and selecting his creative team on whoever's on what movie, and is trusting them completely.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think the Andy Muschietti directorial deal is going to be a bad thing, because I think that his job is to make sure he finds the right people for the stuff. I think it
does make me nervous after watching Flash. I'm not even going to lie. I agree. I agree that it's not necessarily his fault, but I would be lying if I said it does not make me nervous for the first Batman movie in this new universe to be done by the same person that did this. And it just makes me a little nervous.
He was willing to put his name on it. So obviously you can also talk about the head of the executives, the head of the studios also being a huge part of that as well, of course. Yeah. But it's his story, man. And it's, at the end of the day,
Andy Muschietti is in a tough position.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
I don't think he should have been offered this thing to begin with.
I agree.
Because I don't think he has the filmography to back it. I don't. I think that WB was trying very hard. They were so desperate desperate.
Oh yeah,
Michael, while you were gone, we went through the rundown of the last 10 years of like directors and writers coming and going. But at the same time, like, so I don't think Andy can pull what's called like an Alan Smithy. He can't pull his name from the thing and then put Alan Smithy as the name of the director. That's a Hollywood thing where it's like you disavow yourself from your movie, you take your name off of it, you put an Alan Smithy, and like it's no longer yours. I don't think, I mean, directors don't really do that anymore, and he needs it. And his sister is producer on it as well. You know?
Really? I didn't.
Brave and the Bold too.
I don't know about that, but on the Flash.
For Flash, yeah, for sure, I knew that.
But I think that's probably part of the contract, and which I respect. It's like if you come up, you bring your people.
Yeah,
up, you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, that's
like,
cool.
If WB's knocking down my door, desperate for me to take a Teen Titan to direct a Teen Titans movie, I'm like, all right, but I've got to bring the Mount Keegmore too, you know.
Yeah,
and I think part of James Gunn's angle is fresh. Like I think Muschietti's catalog being small is part of the appeal for James Gunn.
Yeah, fresh
ideas, new takes on these different properties, and hopefully it works out. I don't know if that's good or bad. I just have that feeling about James Gunn where he likes underdogs. He cares more about relationships with the people around him, rather than like doing the tried and true thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of unconventional.
I guess, yeah. It's also kind of telling. I'm not a huge, to be honest, I'm not a huge James Gunn fan. I liked Guardians, but I obviously didn't like Suicide Squad, and I don't like Peacemaker that he's done. When it comes to his superhero stuff, but I don't know.
I'm going to say this right now.
I'm still optimistic. I hope that he. I hope that he. Does
I hope
very,
so
very
too.
Well. I hope that he does very well.
Michael,
I want him to prove me wrong. I really do.
Will you take this bet?
Please.
Bet? When Superman Legacy comes out, I will give you $100, and you got to be honest with me, okay?
Of course.
I will give you $100 if you think the movie is less than an 8 out of 10.
If I think it's less than an 8 out of 10,
I'm willing
That's
to bet
unfair.
you $100 that the movie will be 8 out of 10 or up. 8 out of 10 is great.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm most likely going to like it. Like,
okay.
Like I wasn't like I mentioned this before. Like I think him writing and directing it will be fine. I think it'll be great. Especially with Superman. Like I don't know. Is it hard to mess up Superman? I don't know.
I mean, we're in a Superman
Returns,
right
I guess. There's Superman Returns.
For James Gunn on Superman.
You're not taking. Ah, damn.
No, because I think it will be fine. I'm more worried about the direction of the whole universe. I think the individual movie will be fine. And especially all the resources they're probably going to give him anyways. They're going to give him all the time in the world. They're going to give him all the money in the world, right? He's going to have every actor that he wants. He's going to take his time doing everything. So I have no issue with the movie Superman Legacy itself going to be good.
And
not a problem.
I think that he's going to try to do something different with that movie because so many people are worried about this ongoing James Gunn theme. I think with the project as big as Superman, he's going to try to really flex his writing and directorial abilities. Hopefully, I mean, this is just me being hopeful. I really hope,
because all his movies
and then I hope that stems into the rest of the universe.
Yeah, it's just his style stuff, at least in a lot of the superhero stuff, has been very quippy, which worked for those movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know how well that would do in a big superhero movie, especially jumping off the big, universe, really, the starting point. And that's what worries me. But will I think the movie be good? Of course. I think he's going to have all the resources possible. He's a very creative individual. I think he can do it. I want him to prove me wrong. I really do. I want him to. I need this. I need this to go well.
Same.
Yeah.
I need that Teen Titans movie.
We need a good Teen Titans movie.
I need it. Especially after the Titans show. It was horrible.
I need it, man.
The Titans
show. Horrible? It was fine. It was fine.
I liked it. Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just
I liked it.
It's all right. It's for what it is, right? It's what it is.
Why do we have to put liked it a lot. On DC movies.
I agree with you, sir. I agree.
We put asterisks. We go like the Flash. Oh, it's good for a DC movie. It's like, hey, you're pretty for an ugly person. Like, what? Why
I completely agree with you, sir. I completely.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I keep saying. I want a good DC movie. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to keep pulling out. What is it? Obviously it has this problem too. But like, I want all the good like Batman movies we had, but I'm tired of just always going to Batman.
Right.
Always.
Right. But
we can have good Batman movies. Great.
Batman Brave and the Bold is a new brave and bold direction.
Yeah, but we're gonna have another Batman. We're gonna have the Batman Part 2 as well, right?
But that's a different story. Like,
no, I know, but what I'm saying is there's so much already of that.
Yeah,
there's so much already of that.
Why couldn't we get a Batgirl though?
And why couldn't we get a Batgirl?
You know,
hopefully they do. Hopefully, I know they said they cannot put it out. Hopefully they do it. That was my
best chance of seeing a live action Nightwing too, like a big budget movie Nightwing, because Chris O'Donnell doesn't count. He wore the suit in the second one, Batman Robin.
Yeah, he did,
but he wasn't called Nightwing. He was Robin. Yeah,
he was Robin.
I mean, I don't know.
Let's talk about the bad and the ugly of the Flash. DC fans are so down and out right now. It's crazy. It's so we're so disheartened and so like, please just give us something.
Yeah. There's always an asterisk,
it's like these movies come out and you get that spark of hope.
Yeah.
You know, especially with this one because it has been a decade, and then you have all of these people that saw early screenings talking about how good it was. You have all these huge celebrities. Like, again, I hate to keep saying it, but when I saw that Tom Cruise saw them, I just can't imagine Tom Cruise sitting in that movie that I saw, watching it and being like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm like,
don't change a thing.
Yeah. These guys are so intense in like the way they are. And that movie is so silly. I can't imagine that they're like, this is it. This is what all superhero movies are, right? I've never seen one before.
So, like, let's talk the CGI. The CGI was really bad.
It's the low-hanging fruit, but for a reason. It is bad.
It's really, like, people on YouTube can do the face swap stuff. You know what I mean? Like, people on YouTube can do a better job with that, right?
Yeah. Like, it was Scorpion King, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson bad.
It was PS2 faces. Like,
yeah, it was. That's what I said. That's one of my review remarks. I said that this movie felt like one of those YouTube videos where they cut together all the cutscenes from a PlayStation 2 game, and that was the whole movie.
I shouldn't be able to tell who was the real Barry and who is the body double. Like, I shouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
Also,
no.
I feel really bad about for Sasha Callie, or
yes,
I want to say Kaye, but I think they say Callie, and I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But Sasha, I thought for what she did, for the role that she had, I thought she did great. I didn't think it was great.
It was not great.
But that's not her fault.
I'm going to do it one more time.
Yeah.
I promise. This is going to be the last time. But part of the appeal for her being in this movie was that I was going to see Supergirl and Batgirl together at some point. I just had the feeling. Michael Keaton was in both movies. Yeah. They had both of these characters in there. I mean, give me some sort of world's finest, some special something. I just had so much hope for it. And Batgirl's canceled. And then and that was with the team. Because Barry said it was like all of this stuff happened in this condensed moment, and it just didn't do her character justice.
Yeah,
it's just like that's hard to watch. After the fourth time, I was like, I don't want to see this happen again.
So, according to sources, there are 3 different endings filmed for this production.
Yeah,
there was an ending with where the timeline is that Keaton's Batman is the Batman going forward. That would lead us into, let's just say, Aquaman, Batgirl, that sort of thing. That the new timeline would be Keaton's Batman in this timeline, running the Justice League, doing his thing. Supergirl would also be there. So there was one version, it was Keaton's Batman and Callie's Supergirl at the courthouse, which we saw some of the earliest footage is from that.
Would have been cool. Yeah.
A second one is Callie's Supergirl, Cavill's Superman, Godot's Wonder Woman, and Keaton's Batman at the courthouse. So throwing in Superman and Wonder Woman, and then
they burnt that bridge 1,000 times over.
This final one with George Clooney, which they kept.
The best, the best choice, obviously.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you the second ending, you brought in Henry Cavill again when he was signed on again to be Superman, but then he got let go, right? So they had to change it again, right? So all this like craziness with that. So
yeah, the crapshoot of like the Superman in general, with Black Adam just coming out and him being at the end of it, and then you have this movie and he's like, we just see a CGI GameCube version of him at the beginning, and that's it.
Oh yeah,
because we were supposed to get a Man of Steel 2, right? And I guarantee Supergirl is going to be in that too going forward.
Yeah,
and so, but that got scrapped, so that ending got scrapped.
Which means part of the reshoots had to have been them saying that Kal-El was dead, like that this timeline Kal-El is dead, because it wouldn't work either way.
I remember seeing the leaked plot details for this movie a year ago, early 2020, and this was nothing about Zod or anybody. No story details were out, right? But this entire story was leaked, and it was a crazy story about General Zod being in this Flash movie and killing Kal-El and all this stuff that happened in the movie. And I remember seeing it like, this is no way this is true. This just seems like some random Reddit trolling thread.
Right.
No way it's true. And sure enough, that's the entire movie. It's like, I don't understand.
The frustrating part is,
don't understand.
You could have made Flashpoint no problem. Like, that's why I always thought this would be. Like, you have Wonder Woman, you have Aquaman. You could have had that whole thing. You could have, even if you wanted to switch Superman with Supergirl, that still works, right? Even if you switched Thomas with Bruce, with Michael Keaton Bruce, right? It still works.
All of it still works.
It still works. You can have it was right there, right? Flashpoint was right there, and you get like small elements of it, but like it's not even close.
Yeah, I don't get it, man.
Yeah, I think it also hurts because of what I liked and then ended up disliking wholeheartedly is their explanation of the multiverse. Now, at first, I liked it because they said essentially a change to the timeline skews the timeline. It doesn't branch, it skews, which I thought was a whole fresh new take on the mythology behind the multiverse. Because over on Marvel's end, Loki fucked up the idea of what their multiverse is. Like, Loki fucked that up. Like, Endgame explained it, Loki fucked it up, and now I don't know what the fuck is happening in Marvel. But their multiverse, because their rules don't make sense. But in this, at least it made sense. That was the rule. The rule was, you go back in time to change anything, it causes retroactive changes into the past.
Everything.
It changes everything, right? And that's how you get such wild stuff. Like, Barry can go back into the past and pick up a penny and come back and realize everybody is T-Rexes, right? Now,
but it clearly made it to where you cannot fix the timeline, though.
It's not only fix the timeline, you shouldn't be able to interact with it at all because everything would have an effect.
Yeah, because he goes back and he sets he fixes it, quote unquote, with the tomatoes, but he goes back to his regular time and it's not fixed. It's it's not, but it's changed. Yeah. And the footage where his dad was looking down, now his dad's looking up. So it's like once you make a change, it's permanent in a sense, as in that's gone. Whatever is gone now.
The only way to get back to the original thing is he goes back, puts the tomato can on the bottom of the shelf that it was originally. Henry doesn't look up at the camera. He is still in prison. That's the only way to set it back. Yeah, but then you have to keep track of everything you've done. Right.
Exactly. Because then he talked to his mom. And so talking to his mom was different because his mom never had that conversation in the original timeline.
Right.
So maybe she goes home a little later and then Reverse Flash doesn't catch her at home, Like, or whoever murdered her, the random murderer that happened to be walking around the neighborhood in the middle of the day.
There's a science fiction sort of comprehension of the butterfly effect, which we're all well versed in now, right? like for decades. It's the butterfly effect. It's if you this thing happens, then this thing doesn't happen, then this thing
I saw the Ashton Kutcher movie.
Right?
I'm pretty
it all started with the Ashton Kutcher movie. But we've grasped the concept of that. What we haven't grasped, and it seems fantastical and nonsensical. This is part of the nonsense. Is butterfly effect into the past, because there's no rules for that. What you do,
that's weird. It was weird.
There's no rules, so anything can just happen. He could go and turn the tomatoes to peaches, and then suddenly everybody's underwater, like, and everybody has gills. Like there's no rhyme or reason for any of that to take place. So whereas I thought they explained it really well in the beginning, the fact is, like, any traveling to the past causes ripples.
And it's like in some properties, fictional properties, you have it seems separate. You have multiverse stuff,
yes,
which is a different thing than time travel. But in this, it seems like they just smashed them together, and it's like, this is it. Time travel is also multiversal stuff. It's the cause of it,
right?
And I don't know. It's not real, so it doesn't really matter. But it's interesting because they don't really try to explain it other than like, hey, this is just how it is now.
That's the thing, though. Like,
everything's changed.
We know it's not real, but it has to make sense for us to comprehend. For example,
for sure.
Did you guys ever see? It's called About Time. It's about it's Rachel McAdams and Domhnall Gleeson, right?
Yeah.
Domhnall Gleeson
and Bill Nye.
Yep. So in that movie, anytime Domhnall Gleeson goes in the past, he does affect the future, right? But if he affects anything before the birth of his kid, it means the kid is no longer born, or the kid is a different kid, because that's just the way the timeline works. Is like the genes that made us happened at the point of conception at that time. It was that one sperm, that one egg, and any different sperm would have created a different baby. Like, that's just it's a dice roll, but that is just how it is. So you affect the timeline enough, you're not even, if you affect it before your child is born, you can't do that, right? And so, that makes sense.
So everything is a dice roll, right? You can, when you change something, everything's a dice roll, and then when you come back, I mean, some things rolled the same, but some things might have rolled differently.
Not necessarily. For example, like me at my age, if you go 10 years into the past and you change something 10 years in the past, it doesn't affect me being born, because I was born more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about everything. I'm not just talking about someone being born. Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, if you go before someone's born and you affect the timeline, that birth might not ever even happen. Who knows?
Yeah.
But these are the types of things that we get in science fiction, like time travel, and like we have to be able to comprehend it. But this movie was nonsense because you can't comprehend what goes on in the past.
Yeah.
You just have to trust that, like, wacky things. George Clooney is now Batman, but it doesn't follow a rhyme or a reason.
Yeah, I also saw someone complaining about the movie too, when they were they were younger. I don't know how old, but they seemed very younger. They were confused by all the cameos, and it got me thinking. I was like, yeah, they're all older cameos. Like, they're all, I mean, Christopher Reeves. You have the 40s Batman, Superman. Like, you have Batman 66, right?
Yeah.
Nick Cage Superman, which never existed, but it was from the 90s.
The deep cut Nicolas Cage thing was like,
and then Clooney. Like, you had no, like, mainstream, like, most current cameos in there. Like, we didn't have Christian Bale Batman. We didn't have any of the Titans or Doom Patrol, right?
Or
Grant Gustin.
Yeah,
CW Crisis did that, though. That's the thing. They used Smallville. They used Burt Ward. They used like, that was the
they did it better.
They did it better. Oh, they did it better. Even though it's flawed, heavily flawed.
Heavily flawed, but man, I remember watching that CW crossover, and I was like, damn, this is cool, man.
Especially
again, flawed.
But that's the reason why they didn't do it.
They own all that. They don't need to ask permission anymore, especially because they CGI'd everyone anyways, so they don't need to ask permission.
Yeah,
they
definitely didn't ask permission. If they had George Reeves,
and he killed himself.
That's why he killed himself. Yeah, because his career was never the same after Superman.
And so,
and he didn't even do a ton of Superman.
No, but he he would not have okayed his likeness. But
No.
then WB owns you in death?
Yeah, because he doesn't have any family either that could have. No one's alive to dispute it,
That's
which is
wild
crazy,
and
man.
fucked up. Like, you can make an argument that maybe Christopher Reeve
pretty messed
and his
up.
family could have okayed Christopher Reeve, you know? But
Sure.
the George Reeves,
and of course
George
Nick
Reeves,
Cage would
right?
have okayed it. Of course, yeah.
And Nicolas Cage is alive.
Nick Cage was there. He
fine with
signed
that.
up.
You know, but also, not only is it weird to bring back the dead through CGI, and bad CGI nonetheless. It was really bad CGI.
It was bad.
The George Reeve thing is fucked up. The Christopher Reeve thing can be argued against. The George Reeve thing is fucked up.
And
you're not giving me like an explanation though. Like,
the movie.
What's up?
Why wouldn't they throw in more modern cameos in there?
Oh, you're still on that. Yeah. I agree with you there.
Yeah, right. Brandon Routh is still
I
alive.
agree with you.
They could have thrown in like
yes,
and Batman. Throw that in there. The Titan show, Doom Patrol, any of the CW shows. It doesn't even need to be CW Flash. Throw in Green Arrow. I don't care. Like,
and they have so many other characters. They could have did an offhanded live action Batman Beyond. It could have been like a one-off thing just to be like, holy crap, that's a live action Batman Beyond.
Maybe
that would have been nuts. That would have been cooler than.
Could it be that?
Yeah.
Christian Bale Batman?
Could be.
I'll never go back to that.
No, I think there's a possibility that an Anne Hathaway Catwoman could pop up in the multiverse.
Oh my god!
I believe the George Reeves, the Christopher Reeves universe, those two universes, the Nicolas Cage one, are dead, and they will never be visited.
Where's Chris O'Donnell, man?
I know, where's Chris O'Donnell? I mean, yeah, and Adam West was in there too, right?
Chris O'Donnell's Robin.
Adam West, I don't think they'll ever revisit that, right? Like, maybe that was the purpose.
Another thing about the George Reeves thing is that the movie was released on the anniversary of his death. So he killed himself on June 16th, 1959. And that's when the movie came out with this unsolicited cameo. So it was just like this cluster of what is going on. And I guess they just didn't think it through, man.
I was confused about one of those, though. We saw Jay Garrick Flash, right? We saw Jay Garrick Flash in there. Yeah. And he was also in a time bubble. Was he also screwing with time? Like,
what? Yeah, you're right.
What was he doing?
Weird.
He was also running in a time bubble. He was also doing something crazy.
In a time bubble.
Was he affecting
the
multiverse too?
Some people were saying that it was the guy that played Jay Garrick in the CW Flash, but then that guy was like, "No, it wasn't me, man. I wasn't there. I think I would have known if I got a paycheck." And then some people were saying it was a de-aged Wesley Shipp, but they was like, "No, it wasn't me." Apparently, they AI generated just generic guy, generic guy face.
But they could.
Why throw Jay Garrick in it all? Man. Like, why? And then especially like that, like it confused the hell out of me because I was like, "Oh, he's in the same."
It would have been cooler
bubble.
To put Wesley Shipp in there.
Yeah, but again, they can come back to John Wesley Shipp. That's the thing. I think that like these are all universes that they will never. I mean, those universes should have died. Like, but they healed at the end.
Yeah,
they healed.
Which is weird. Yeah, that's weird.
Which is weird.
So we're gonna get that Nicolas Cage movie, Nicolas Cage Superman Spider monster movie.
The Nicolas Cage thing makes no sense to anyone who doesn't know. Like it makes no sense why Nicolas Cage, a well-known actor, why his face is on Superman. That is the wildest thing because understandably we know the history behind Superman Lives, but
it was cool for me, but I agree.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
But that's what I was getting at. The guy that I was listening to was complaining about that because he's young. He's like, I don't understand where any of these characters.
Why the fuck is Nicolas Cage Superman fighting a giant spider? What is this?
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, long-haired, de-aged Nicolas Cage. You know?
Yeah, everyone in
there. A
lot of people don't know who any of those people we saw were. And just
Helen Slater's Supergirl.
If you wanted people to connect to this movie, they would bring some other people in, right? Like have those. I'm not saying
they cut some cameos. They cut some cameos too.
Yeah,
Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. They cut her.
Oh.
Marlon Brando's Jor-El. Cesar Romero's Joker.
Okay.
Oh.
They cut
Are
those.
they all dead?
Not saying that those would be any cooler. Yeah. I believe so.
Okay, Marlon Brando.
Linda Carter's alive.
Linda Carter is alive.
Linda Carter's still alive. And not that they would add any gravitas to the end of that, but I don't know, man. Just take George Reeves out of there and put any of those other characters.
Yeah, no joke.
What are you gonna have? Shaq Steele?
Oh my God, they should have had Shaq Steele.
Now that would have been cool. And I know some people, obviously, that's not a bad movie, but I loved that movie when I was a kid, so that would have been cool to see.
They're also not having bad movies. George Clooney's Batman and Robin is derided. So, like, but can you imagine?
They didn't have Jonah Hex in there either, or Constantine.
Why didn't they have
Jonah Hex?
Right,
that would have been fun.
Been cool
though, to have Shaq Steele finally meet Christopher Reeve.
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
Christopher Reeves looked like a video game, man. It was so I hated it, man. And I love
it, man.
It's Superman. I hated it.
The director and the fans are saying that the CGI was supposed to look that way, but the director was not
intentional.
talking about that thing. The director was talking about the Speed Force, the swimming in the orange kind of flash time.
I thought that was perfect. So there's no complaint.
I have no complaint over the CGI of that. But when you see the Flash running through the battlefield, he turns into this little sprite that, like a video game sprite that just runs around. Or the faces that we've said are bad, right? Like that's the problem isn't the speed, the aesthetic for the Speed Force moving around at super speed. And one could make an argument that the Force Bowl, what did he call it? The Speed Bowl?
Yeah. Whatever that was,
when he's in the ball and it's this like diorama of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is a cool concept. I liked that.
That's an aesthetic. That has to be intentional.
I didn't like looking at it.
No,
it was a cool idea. I just was like, this is too uncanny valley, because what these people look like in real life. So it's hard to see this like CGI version of them with these like wax body figures. It was just so hard to.
It was like wax figures.
Yeah, it was just hard to watch, and again, because we know what these people look like in real life.
Yeah,
and I get it. It's hard. We're not completely there yet. I guess technology was. I totally understand that.
Technology wise, but
why do it?
It takes time. Art takes time.
Flash had plenty of time.
Takes like 10 years, I think.
Flash had plenty of time.
But it also takes the money. And but it had time because it had rewrites and reshoots and just everything.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean like the final product had time,
But what if you take all of the kaleidoscope and all of the cameos, I think it would service the movie better if you take all of that out. Like if you take all of the random cameos at the end with like all of the Supermen, you take all of that out. You're losing the negative points from the Uncanny Valley. And you have to obviously do another rewrite and change the ending, but all of that stuff was like a fan service, not done well. So why do it?
Right.
That's just where I'm at. It's like, why do it? Just take it out. It was bad. Yeah.
And but that's kind of what I'm getting at, Dimithri. I understand that, that process takes time. I completely understand that and acknowledge that. And money. They can find money if they want to. That's what I'm going with Lex. If they wanted to do it, why didn't they just do it right?
Right. They could have cut that part out. Also, why did they show like the multiverse hinges on Superman? But like Superman was dead in this universe. Supergirl was alive and then would die. So what is
that? Was my thing. It was like it would have been way cooler to see multiple versions of Flash. Because it's a Flash movie. I don't know why we have 10 Why are we even talking about Superman right now?
Also, the Batman.
I could not put it together.
Version didn't have a Superman, so
no.
I don't.
It was weird, man.
Yeah, see, because like I've always thought like I would love to see a crossover of the '90s properties. I would love to see a Shaq Steele and a Dean Cain Superman and a Michael Keaton Batman and like no.
I don't know about Dean Cain. I just don't like Dean Cain. I would rather see a Christopher Reeves, Michael Keaton crossover. I know that's a different era, sort of, but
Because
I would much rather see that.
Adam West link up more to me, just being older school, you know. But okay, whatever. The point being is,
Dean Cain's terrible, man.
I know Dean Cain is terrible. I know. I'm not a fan. I'm just saying. Timeline wise.
Yeah. Which I guess is kind of hypocritical because we're talking about the Flash movie.
Yeah. I mean, this is just shit on shit on shit, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed. I think that's what it is.
I was very disappointed.
Like I said,
I'm just disappointed.
The bad far outweighs any good that I got from this movie.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of it had to do with the overhype for me too. I always try to go in even. I stop watching, like, I don't watch like second or third trailers or like all the clips that come out like a week before. I usually try to cut everything off. Yeah, I'm gonna try to go in fresh. But everyone was saying how awesome this movie was. Literally taglines on a lot of them. Best superhero movie ever.
Yeah,
fantastic. I love that.
Just wild.
DC movie is on top right now. I love.
How do you even do that How do you even do that anymore with so many superhero movies out and everyone has a different opinion? How do you say this is the greatest superhero movie of all time? It's crazy.
Exactly. I let myself get excited, and
yeah, I did too. It was bizarre, man. The media hype around it. I still to this day think it's weird that people are still saying it after having seen it. There was a guy that I followed that saw it 3 times and was like, I would never see this movie three times in theaters.
No, I had bought tickets for it, but then I got a special free screening like a couple days before it came out. I watched the free screening and then returned my ticket for the next one. I didn't need to see it again. I'll wait to stream it. I have Max. I'll just wait to stream it if I want to see it again. I didn't want to pay for it again because at least I paid for it not knowing, and now I know. Like, I don't want to spend my money on it. Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. As we close this episode up, what are some quick thoughts about how we see, let's just say, the Flash going forward, the Flash as a character, in any medium? Because again, I'm a fan of the comics. People out there need to go read the comics, find a comic shop near you, comicshoplocator.com, read some Flash comics. They're really good. They've started, they've come really back to being good from Infinite Frontier onwards. I think
with Wally taking over,
with Wally taking back over, because Barry to me
I wonder
is not
why.
that interesting.
Yes, you know? Wally's much better. That's unbiased. I'll help. Wally's my Flash, so there you go. Biased.
Yeah,
same.
I
really hope that's the direction live action.
The CW show's over. This movie, I don't know, like what's happening here. What's the future for the Flash?
I think live action, I hope that they do that old idea of like Barry Allen being more of a gold in this universe. Superheroes have existed for as long as anyone can remember. It doesn't have to be like the start of superheroes at the start of this universe, right? No. So Barry Allen is a golden age hero. He's older, and Wally West is the Flash. You know, Silver Age. Yeah.
Can't forget about Jay.
Yeah, and so he's that older character. I mean, maybe they don't do Jay Garrick though. Maybe it's
I think they'll eventually do a Justice Society thing. I mean, they tried to do.
God, I hope so. I don't think they will, but I hope so.
James Gunn.
I feel like they were trying. They tried.
They tried.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson was trying, man.
It was so close. We're so close.
Oh God.
James Gunn.
I don't know.
Bring in some of the hokey.
Because I love the Justice Society. I love the JSA.
Cool again.
I'm so excited.
Same. Yeah, he's teased Mr. Terrific. So, and I don't know if he'll go old school
with Michael
JSA, like origin story.
Yeah,
God.
Terry Sloan.
Oh God, no.
No.
So hopefully, like I said, hopefully that history just exists in the universe and they can reference it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than having to origin story out every single character that we get introduced to.
Yeah. It's easy though to build. Okay, I'm gonna say it. This sounds okay. Whatever. I think it's easy to build the DC universe in the thick of things. You can just say that there have been special people throughout history. In World War II, the government had a team. Like we don't need to know much more than that. We need to know that but they've lived in secret for a long time. Some have been public and some have been private. And but the real big age of heroes started with Superman going public in Metropolis. That's easy. That's easy. Like,
yeah, I agree.
That doesn't take much explanation. And it leaves it open for werewolves and monsters and Nazi robots and like that all doesn't. You don't need to say that they exist right now.
Yeah.
But if you want to get to it, you can get to it.
And the cool thing about Batman is Batman sort of always exists. He's a myth in his, in his city, so people don't even think he's real.
Yeah.
And he answers sort of that, and then that's what they're doing in the Sean Gordon Murphy universe. But he sort of answers that response to Superman going public. And I don't know.
It's hard with Batman and Superman though, because they've existed longer, right? And then they're Golden Age heroes too. They just last in the popularity longer, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to start them right in the middle, in my opinion. But you can. No, I completely agree. Yes, I think they should.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating because they have all this great actual written material with the comics, and it doesn't have to go, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I don't need it to go one for one. You don't need to be exactly and it shouldn't be. It's a completely different medium. But there should be this essence of it. You should know where it comes from. You should have these amazing stories just right there. You can adapt them. You can make them your own just without going crazy with it, I guess. Like, I don't know, man. It seems like it's just a missed opportunity with all this stuff.
That's the thing about being a DC fan. There's always been so much potential, but this roller coaster of, this isn't just me talking out my ass. Warner Brothers would often step in on DC projects.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There was a disconnect between Warner Brothers and DC. And that's always been a
problem. 1,000%.
Since day one.
Yeah. I would argue that DC has more potential superhero-wise, story-wise, and just like I was talking to Michael earlier, and the heart of their superheroes, way more potential than Marvel had. And so for me, it's wild that Marvel has been so wildly successful sort of with scraps compared to DC having all of these characters and not figuring out what to do with them.
Yeah.
It's always been so bizarre to me.
Yeah. I think in my theory is that in phase 1, Gods and Monsters of the DC universe, that there will be a Wally West or a Barry Allen. And if it's Barry Allen, it's a recast Barry Allen, and it will not be linked to Ezra Miller's Barry. It will.
You think so?
I think there will be an appearance by a Flash, not of the Ezra Miller timeline, in phase 1, Gods and Monsters.
Ezra's obviously met with James Gunn, though. You talked about him on the red carpet.
Yeah, I think that's what's it called? Disaster. No, what's the word? It's
managing. He's managing him.
Disaster relief, whatever. Like, the point being is that like
damage control.
Damage control. Thank you. Yes, it's damage control. That's what it is.
What? Yeah. Why would James Gunn need to do that though?
Because the Flash movie still needs to come out and make money. They cannot disavow Ezra, and legally they can't. There would be slander, libel, whatever. There are so many problems if they say one thing bad about Ezra. Ezra finishes their job in this movie, and they move on without him, without saying anything bad about him. They will say, we're just going in a new direction. Or they'll say, in a multiverse of DC timelines, this is a new universe. They'll say something like that.
God, I hope they just disassociate with multiverse for a little while. I'm very pessimistic about it, but I always hope I'm wrong. I truly do. I'm not one of the people that want to be right all the time with this stuff. I hope you're right. I really do. To be honest, I don't see it happening. I think they might use Ezra Miller again, but I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I really hope I'm wrong.
I think with this horrible release of this movie, with everything going on, there's a reason why Andy Muschietti isn't getting tapped to do a new Flash movie that takes place in this new timeline. They're going to put the Flash on ice, and when, like, as a character, or whatever, as a movie character, and when they do thaw the Flash out, it will not be Ezra Miller.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I think they're going to go with a Wally West, is to completely...
No, I'm not looking for an Ezra Miller redemption arc. Yeah. You don't think there will be an Ezra Miller as Barry leading into a new Wally?
No.
Him literally handing it over.
I think
them literally handing it over.
I think Lex what Lex may have been saying is that like you just
Sorry,
have
I
an older
interrupted.
Barry, and you introduce Wally as the main character.
Mm-hmm.
The comics
Like
have
the
Wally
mentorship.
as the main character now. The Wallies
Yes,
are,
they do. That's what's in.
The comics right now are phasing out Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's boring.
He's boring.
Yeah, he's boring. Wally does
He's
much
just
better.
boring.
Wally does much better.
He's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that in that Flash 800, that was probably the best Barry story I've read in a while, man.
Did you?
And, I
With
mean,
him
I
visiting
agree
his-
with that. I agree with that too.
Yeah, I finished it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also from the Just League cartoon, that was Wally. Fantastic.
It was
Right?
Wally.
Like
Yeah.
super easy to do.
Yeah. Wally is just the
Yep.
better Flash. And we also
just
got
the better
9
He just
seasons.
is, man.
We got 9 seasons of Barry on the CW Flash. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be
Kinda,
a Wally
yeah.
era going forth. Quote me on this.
It has to be. You
it's
know, a lot
Wally.
of times when you'll see the push from comic books synergistically have an effect, and there has been a huge push for Wally just because the fans have for years have constantly said, "Hey, this is the Flash we like."
Yeah.
And then they're starting to see like, "Oh, yeah, they actually do
Still-
like him. They're buying books."
Silly
They're
Jeff
like,
Johns
"What's
bringing
that?"
back Barry.
Golly.
Jeff Johns bringing back Hal and Barry.
And
Both of
Hal
them-
and Barry,
Both
yeah.
of them should have stayed dead.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Hal
Evil
Rayner
Hal
and
more
Wally
than
West,
regular
yeah.
Hal. I like
What's that?
Hal Rayner, Wally West is the perfect pair, man.
Or
I
even
completely
Jon
agree.
Stewart, Wally West. Like
Yeah, Jon Stewart's good too.
You know, there are better. Even
Jon
Guy
Stewart's great.
Gardner. Guy Gardner is a.
I love Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner
He's
is
alright.
a better.
I like Guy Gardner on his own,
Yeah.
kicking ass in space. He's just so silly. He fits in a James Gunn. If you go into the James Gunn traditional world, Guy Gardner is.
Yeah, if you told me
perfect
that James
for-
Gunn was going to direct a Justice League International, I would have been like, hell yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
man.
let's
Just
go.
wait in time.
Oh,
let's
go.
I would faint.
Yeah,
I would
be
faint. That would be
perfect.
awesome.
That fits his
That would be
style.
awesome.
Batman
Yeah,
just
that would be freaking.
smashing Guy Gardner's jaw and he passes out in front of everybody and Shazam's like, oh my god. Like,
I would
It
faint.
would-
that would be perfect.
I don't think it'll be this. I think it'll be what they do in movies now. It's that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Guy would be like blah 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 blah, and then Batman would go
boom. And then just walks out of the room. Oh, that's so
God,
that would be so
perfect.
good. Oh, now I'm excited for something that's never going to happen. Oh my god.
I mean, Young
It would be
Justice
so
the
perfect.
cartoon did Guy really well.
Yeah, he was
I mean,
great.
he was
in that.
He was like annoying in that one.
But he's
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah.
Well,
He
because
always is annoying.
yeah. Where's
I
he
thought
from?
he was
He's from
from-
Maine or something. Where's he from?
Uh,
I always
don't
think of him
remember.
as a
I have no idea.
Boston bro, but he's not a Boston bro. But I always think of him as a Boston bro.
He's definitely East Coast.
He is.
Yeah, Kyle Rayner is my favorite. Kyle Rayner is my favorite Green Lantern.
To be honest, I liked him when he was a Red
Kyle?
Lantern.
Or Guy.
Yeah. Kyle Rayner is my favorite Green Lantern.
Oh, Kyle Rayner. Yes,
Yeah.
I love Kyle Rayner. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my Green Lantern too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Baltimore. He's from Baltimore.
makes sense.
Guys.
Makes sense. Baltimore's terrible. Sorry if you're listening. It's Baltimore.
I always think
It's
of him
terrible.
as a Boston bro, but yeah, that's fine. That's fine too. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on this episode and talking with me and the audience about The Flash. I want to thank the audience out there, Brent, T3 Media Studios out there, anyone else out there watching and or listening. Before we get going, Michael, tell me where we can find you online. What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Nothing crazy. TikTok's my biggest thing for the love of comics. I'm on all the other social medias too, and you can find links on my TikTok. Nothing crazy, I guess. You know, there'll be stuff coming up, so jump on if you're looking for new, news on new comics every week. I know. I mean, Lex probably does it better anyway, so I'd go over to him. But yeah, new comic recommendations and funny videos, and just trying to build a really nice, welcoming, open community as well. So just like what you do, Dimithri, that's very, very important to me. So if you like just talking about your characters, even things you don't like about it, in a space that we can all just have fun with it, that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. There are too many haters out there, and I have to try real hard not to be one. But I don't feel like my essence is a hater, even if there are things that I dislike. If people had fun with this movie, the people had fun. And I'm glad that they had fun.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you like The Flash, there are a lot of really cool Flash things out there. you know? Maybe the CW Flash isn't for you, but if you like this movie, check out the comic books. Comicshoplocator.com to find a comic shop near you. If you have questions,
there's a prequel comic.
And you have questions, feel free to reach out to me or Michael or Lex or ask us about where to start with Flash comics, because there's been some really easy jumping on points recently.
Yeah, if you like this movie, there's a prequel comic that explained where he got all these how he used his powers, which I really was a cool comic. If you like this movie Flash, there's a comic that goes along with it, and you should find it.
The goal is we sharing our love, right? Sharing our love of comics, no matter what we're into. The fact is we can all get together and talk comics, and that's really awesome. Michael, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Lex, where can we find you online? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
At Wednesday Poll everywhere, all the social media stuff. And we have our review for The Flash, which is very similar to this one, except my co-host Simon is more deadpan mean than I am, so I'm the straight man. And so it's a funny dynamic. So that comes out on Wednesday. But yeah, that's it. We got the show coming out. Trying to get back on TikTok, just trying to crawl back over to it. It's been a while. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay, for sure. Both of you guys have to come down to Southern California at some point. So
yeah, that needs to happen soon.
Yeah. For anyone out there watching, you were watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. If you're listening to us but not watching us, you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/The Keeg Show. If you want to give back to the Keeg, you find a subscription tier that works for you, that's within your, what you want to give, as low as $5 a month, and pretty much helps us advertise and try to get a larger audience base for this show. Other than that, you can find us on social media, TikTok, The Keeg Show. Those are our biggest social media platforms. Definitely follow us there. If you're listening to us or watching us, like, comment, subscribe, do your thing. Let us know you're out there, because sometimes you guys listen to the podcast. We don't know as long as we love you. I don't know. I was trying to make that work. Backstreet Boys. Anyway, but let us know you're out there. Write a review. Do your thing, It's every weekend. Next week, we will be talking about Pride in comics. So LGBTQ plus representation in comic books, because it is Pride Month, and Pride Month is ending, but the Pride continues. So definitely stay tuned. That'll be on Saturday, I believe the 24th or so. We also have the Secret Invasion after show that starts up this Wednesday. So it'll be every Wednesday night for 6 weeks while we watch the Secret Invasion show on Disney Plus, and we talk about each episode. And then there's also Comic Talk every Thursday, where we talk about that week's new releases of comics. So if any of that sounds good to you, check out what we got to offer. That's pretty much the gist of things. Thank you once again, Michael. Thank you, Lex, so much for coming out, spending time on a Sunday night, talking about all this.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been the Keeg Talks, The Flash. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get the loot, cause it's the King, and we got geek news.